Morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the November 18, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Before we begin, there are some announcements that need to be made. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Thank you. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that people who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 665-127-282 #, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link posted on the agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Chatham Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. Thank you very much. First item here is the roll call. Bob Lear.
Here.
Nancy Barr.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Robert Stevens.
Here.
Janet Tennyson.
Here.
Robert Wilson.
Here.
Sandy Porter is absent. You hear from Sandy? And the chair is here. Okay. All right. We have a quorum, and we could proceed. We have first item of business is the minutes of November 4th, 2025. And again, I'm always fascinated how Annie captures the essence of the discussion.
Could I make a motion?
It makes us sound good.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Great.
Second.
Okay. No other comments, corrections, deletions? Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Robert Stevens?
Yes.
Janet Tennyson?
Yes.
Robert Wilson?
Yes.
And, oh, wait a second. Were you not here, Bob?
Bob was not here.
Yeah, you weren't here. So you abstain. Okay. If you didn't know, you abstain. Okay. And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Okay, we have two applications. One continued from November 4th, 2025, 65 Elefantes Lane, which is continued, and one new application, 89 Barcliff Avenue. Okay, before we start, the applicant, in the form of Chris Cannon, has asked for some comments. We don't have anything other. Why don't you come on up, Chris? We don't have any new information from the applicant, but for the public's information and for members of the commission, and hopefully you've all read that, I requested comments from the Cape Cod Commission, which is a thing we do on pretty much pro forma when we have an application in the National Register District, especially a contributing structure, which this application is for, and a change which, in our opinion, we felt potentially was a substantial alteration which could threaten the National Register status. So it's rather a long couple of pages. We're not going to read the whole thing. But for the members of the public, the Cape Cod Commission provided information as it related to their opinion and background. They did provide us some guidance as it related to the floodplain regulations and historic structures in Massachusetts, and specifically whether or not this application would trigger code compliance or whether or not an exemption is potential, which we had discussed briefly at the previous meeting. So this is something we have to discuss with amongst ourselves and also with the building commissioner, as he's the major domo, if you will. He's the guy who makes these decisions for guidance from us. And in addition to that, as I said, we have opinions for the Cape Cod Commission. I'm not going to go into now of what they suggested on what could or could not be done, but having said that, just by way of introduction, Chris, why don't you take it from here?
So, thank you. Chris Cannon, representing Ann Picardo, owner of 65 Olivemits. So I did a deep dive last week into all this information, and one of the things that I did to start with was I met with the neighbor, and because I was sort of I walked away from the hearing sort of feeling.
Chris, do me a favor, get a little closer to the microphone.
Sure. So I walked away from the last hearing with the impression that maybe we should be looking to find a halfway point. It was clear that this group was doubting that this should be done. So, to be polite. So, I did a deep dive once I had the time to do it, and read all of Cape Cod Commission's information, which, by the way, is really wonderful information, no matter what you're doing. I went to FEMA's information, read everything I could find there. Cape Cod Commission provided me stuff that FEMA couldn't provide me, that FEMA should have provided me. So, if you're looking, go to Cape Cod Commission, you'll find it there. I, looked at the house itself, what it could take, to be done differently. I studied what it meant to get an exemption, what it meant to get a variance. Spoke more with Jay Briggs. As I said, I had formulated my own opinions because I've been here in Chatham full-time for about 43 years. I've observed what you've observed. So my opinion is this Elevation 12 is kind of nutty, but it is what it is. It's out of my control. And it's what FEMA has chosen for whatever reason. I don't have the expertise to doubt them. I guess neither do you, neither does anybody here. I'm sort of left with that. Now, come midweek, after I'd met with the neighbor, after I'd done all this research, I reached out again to Jay Briggs and, spoke about the exemption, which he would be the one to offer the exemption. I have no reason to believe that Jay would ever offer an exemption. Jay has been steadfast in his belief that this house needs to be brought into full compliance with FEMA, which is 2 feet above base flood elevation, so that would put it at elevation 14, top of first floor. That's precisely what we came to you originally with. So after that, I reached out to the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, which is the county, essentially. Met with, or spoke by way of email with their specialist, and her advice was to lift it into full compliance. She reached out to Cape Cod Commission, and as your board also did. We received yesterday morning their opinion, which also seems to concur that this building, and it's all about life safety, it's all about preserving the buildings. So between the two, everybody seemed to agree the house needs to be lifted to elevation 14. That being said, the commission expounded on how one would go about that. I'd already read all of that in their guidelines, so it was nothing new to me. Much of it I did intuitively. It's what we do. We did a change of materials, which honor the building itself. She did mention it at the Cape Cod Commission, did mention that there was a need for 2 egress. I did that. I also came up this week with what I think might be a good solution to not have a spiral, which would be to put a hatch in the floor and find a way to do it in that inside section so that one could have a second egress, but it would be by way of going through the floor. And it wouldn't take up square footage. It would just be something. I have not run this by Jay Briggs yet, and we'll see if there's a way that we can pull that one off. But it does need two forms of egress, and that was the main reason for the spiral. So the spiral, I think, essentially could easily go away. Now, personally, I think it's reasonable to assume that it's fair for someone to have a deck, though the commission didn't really like the idea of a deck, though all their information includes decks in guidelines. It just tells you how you should do it, and typically they say you should do it on the front of the building and on the back of the building, but not on the side of the building. And if you are going to wrap it, be modest in the way you wrap it. They also recommend using cable rails because they sort of downplay the rail itself. So do you have the images that I sent? If we could just go through these images, I think it would be helpful to understand.
What are we looking at?
So that is the satellite image of the whole area. First Light Boatyard being on the green dot on it. Actually, 49 is 65. And so I thought it was kind of interesting just to look at this because the grouping of buildings goes from what shows here as 61 to 47. And if we can look at the next one, this is 1960. That you can just see, I don't know, how does this thing work? That is 65. This is the building next to it. That's since been torn down, that building. If we can look at the next one. It's not so easy finding these things, but I was able to go to a property that I did, you approved, about 5 years ago during COVID. And I know for certain that I was at elevation 11.5 when I took this picture.
Where is this?
This is the same area. This is 65 here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what we're looking at. So this is one of the views out from across the pond a bit, very similar to what one might experience. You know, it's a hodgepodge of grouping, you know, the whole grouping. You know, we got one building here that's pretty tall, building here that's pretty tall, and the three buildings in between right here that are not so much. Elevation 11.5 is right there. That's eye level from where this picture is taken. So, you know, I looked at it and thought, well, okay, so you start to see that it's already 2 feet below the adjacent building, just from the window heights. So I was able to measure on my computer, so just knowing where it was taken. So I thought it was important to show these groupings. So, you know, yes, the three in the middle are much lower than the other two that are flanking it. If we can look at the next picture. Now you start to see it sort of the same. Building next to it, this is 65. This is the shack behind 65. This is Gould Residence, Gould Shed, and Gould House. So you can sort of see that the roof line is well below this house and this house. This one was always pretty high. This was the little shed in the 1960 photo that was taken, that was removed. It may still have a part of the shed in it, I don't know. That was done, I think, sometime maybe in the 80s or 90s. I'm not really sure when that was built. But things morph over time. There are buildings that are taller there, and that is what you see. This is what you see from the water. And yeah, elevating it will make it higher, but the other two will eventually elevate as well. They'll have to. They'll get flooded out.
They don't have to.
Is the storm this year? Is it 10 years? I don't know.
Okay, that's That's an interesting argument you're making there.
I'm not making an argument, I'm just saying it's
I hear
true.
what you're going, what you're trying to do.
I'm just saying it's gonna happen.
We're here to talk about your building,
Fine.
okay?
So,
Building and
but
the cluster of your building.
all of these people reference that the other buildings will eventually do it.
I don't think so.
They do. In the letters that I received, they're referencing that these buildings will eventually do it. So, and they're saying that the coastline changes. That's just what happens with coastlines, essentially. So,
Okay, I hear the argument you're trying to make. It's not necessarily what we're about
yeah,
in terms of historic preservation.
correct. But what you are
Or
about,
contributing structure in the National Register District and the loss of the historical significance of that building or that cluster of buildings, so.
right, and that will be up to you to determine
And that's
whether
the
or not it's a
reason,
loss.
that's the reason for an exemption.
Yeah. So I'm not the one that grants the exemption,
No,
so.
you're not. Now you're
So,
not. You're the
that's
one
out of my
You're the one
hands.
who's requesting it, okay, yeah.
Well, yes, I suppose that could be, I'm requesting it if we do something other than full compliance. But
Yeah,
I'm not
you could do
requesting
something
it.
other than full compliance.
Excuse me?
You could do something other than full compliance.
One could. It's against the advice of the county and the Cape Cod Commission as far as I can see at this point. There's at least the opinion.
It's their opinion, that's correct.
Correct. So, that's sort of where we are today, that, we have been given through all of the powers that be, the information that we should be going up.
So are you going to
8'8".
provide something to us?
So I think that that's the next place where we would have to go, is what would be what we'd be looking to do finally. Everything that I get tells me that the 4 foot is not going to fly. I'm not going to get the exemption. I mean, that's just the
We haven't
impression
asked
I've been
for it.
given. I have not, but
And I haven't asked for it. I've had conversations with Jay.
Right.
For the process for us to request an exemption. Yeah, there is a process.
yeah,
And the process is for the commission to determine that, in fact, this is a contributing structure in the National Register District, and whether or not, in accordance with the guidelines provided by Mass Historic and also FEMA, whether or not this could apply and whether an exemption could be granted. They are granted. Exemptions are granted, okay? And there are a lot of reasons for it and a lot of reasons why not. But it still comes back to you as the owner, representing the owner. You want to do this. You want to raise it, ergo, the issue of the FEMA, and I agree with that, and I understand that. But there's the question of whether or not something different could happen, if there could be some kind of a compromise. You ask, what can you do? I mean, even from what provided by the Cape Cod Commission and comments here, the spiral staircase, the deck, all these things, they're non-starters. The mass of the building, the fact that you're making a 2-story building out of a 1-story building by enclosing it rather than just putting the pilings on. These things that could be acceptable to the commission, but we can't tell you, and we won't tell you what to do.
Correct.
It's up to you to provide something back to us so we can discuss it, go back to the Cape Cod Commission and make a decision on that.
yeah. And as I discussed with you yesterday, we're not looking for an opinion today. I hope that you all have seen the Cape Cod Commission's information.
Yes, we have.
Okay. So, I think that, for me, it went a long way, though, as, I said, I started the week, last week, and right through Wednesday, with the mind that maybe there's a halfway point here that would be acceptable.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Chris, as you said that, very clearly.
Yeah.
We prefer not to refer to the Cape Cod Commission. The Cape Cod Commission would prefer that we don't refer it to the Cape Cod Commission. They would prefer us to resolve the issue locally. And that's what we're trying to do. But we do need something in front of us in order to attempt to resolve it.
Right.
Do you think you'll have that at the next meeting?
Oh, I can absolutely have that.
All right, December 2nd? Just hold on one second. December 2nd? Okay, so that's good. All right. Yeah, some people have some questions. Yes.
You referred to letters. Are the letters the ones you talked about, or are there other letters from abutters that you have
No, I don't have anything from butters because, that's not the argument here right now.
Steph, I
We're-
believe he's
we're-
referring to the memo I sent you from the Cape Cod Commission.
Yeah, but I wondered if that was what he was talking about.
It's in
My
your-
wonder was, he said he had other letters. And I
Yes.
didn't know if that included letters from abutters.
I don't, Chris, there are no other letters, right?
I have an email that I had with Shannon Hulst from Cape Cod Cooperative Extension.
Okay.
That's the
If you
county.
want to share that, fine.
Yeah, I think, I'm not going to read it out now.
No, you don't have to do it,
But
just-
I certainly am happy to
Right.
share that or have her write something to
Yeah.
you, either way.
If you could do that, then I will also have a conversation with Jay just to understand where we all are, and then we can proceed at the December 2nd meeting.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, Robert?
Yeah, you mentioned a 4-foot plan and an exemption, and I'm just trying to follow the music. What, in your view, does that entail? It's apart from the baseline case which you're proposing, which is
Right.
the elevated one.
So,
What is your view of that?
My view of the 4-foot is if we were to lift it 4 foot, that would elevate the house, the bottom of the structure of the house. So this would be looking at it in a slightly different way versus the top of the first floor being some point above flood zone. It would sort of take a look at flood zone and say, well, flood zone be damned.
And then-
Here's where the floods actually were.
And would entail pilings, you said?
It would entail pilings.
Anything else? Can you describe it or anything?
Well,
Sorry, I couldn't get, what would it require?
it would require lifting the house, in my view.
Yeah, okay. I didn't catch it.
To 2 feet above the known flood that we've had, the highest flood that we are familiar with.
Yeah.
It's marked on the house all through the interior. And so that was easy to get. And so, I looked at it and said, okay, well, if I was 2 feet above that, would I sort of be meeting the intent of the,
Yeah.
what FEMA's looking after? So that was, where I started, where I spent pretty much a week and a half after meeting here, looking into. And, but everything beyond that took me to a place where full compliance seemed inevitable.
All right, look, gentlemen, lady, I don't want to have the meeting for December 2nd, okay? Yes. Jay, you had something?
Does FEMA ever decide, that the water level is so high, maybe that house shouldn't be there to begin with? It could
Sorry, say
continue
it
on. Does FEMA ever decide that, since the water level's rising and other people are dealing with it, other residents are dealing with it, but that it, rather than raising it and having a tower over everybody that shouldn't be there? Maybe these houses shouldn't be there anymore.
Maybe the houses shouldn't be there anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Does FEMA ever come to that conclusion?
Well, there's issue of property rights and all that kind of good stuff. FEMA just provides guidance, and the purpose of this whole thing is insurance. It's all about insurance.
Well, property rights, and we have big cranes and barges coming in and wrecking the marshes that is all around there and
Right.
everything. I
I hear
mean,
you. That's another meeting.
So there are, I have in one case seen an avenue where an engineer came and questioned FEMA's elevations.
Sure, you can question.
And we're able to get it reduced. I suppose that's possible. It's its own process.
It's
So,
an algorithm. Guess what?
Yeah.
Things work. Yes, Nancy?
I don't want to have the meeting that we're going to have, but I do think it's important because we've been talking about the whole exemption thing. I understand what you're interpreting from different input from people, but I think what Frank said about the exemption is important. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to read.
Go ahead.
In the Cape Cod Commission and Cape Cod Cooperative Extension Flood Specialist Guidelines, their first frequently asked question says, does the substantial improvement damage exemption for historic structures mean all floodplain requirements are waived? And the answer to that question is, the exemption can be interpreted as an exemption only from those flood mitigation activities that would preclude the structure's historic designation, which is what they recommend, or a complete exemption from all flood mitigation. The local building commissioner may make this determination, but should do so consistently for all qualifying historic structures. It is recommended that they consult a historic preservation specialist to confirm whether flood mitigation activities would threaten the building's historic designation. So I want to make the point that the Cape Cod Commission started their feedback to us by saying, raising this does
Yes.
alter significantly the historic integrity of this building. And then they went on to say, but if no one's going to give an exemption, then you have to go up 8 feet. And I think we want to be at the place where we're still considering an exemption.
Exemption.
Yeah.
Because that is our job, is to preserve the historic integrity of the structure. I just wanted to make that point.
No,
Yeah.
it's good, and you all have that. I believe I gave you that memo, so, okay. Yes, Robert?
I've read through this. Thank you for coming back. When it comes to an exemption, maybe this is a silly question, but one of the exemptions is on the height, but a second exemption could be on the percentage of funds that you would be able to apply to do something different. You mentioned at the last meeting that you were hamstrung because if you decided to do some kind of a renovation, that you could only spend a certain percentage of what the current value of the property was. So I'm just wondering if that's a second type of exemption so that it wouldn't need to be raised the full amount, but maybe you could get more money to do something halfway. It just seems to me common sense is out the window on this. I don't see it being approved. I mean, I don't see it being approved with this new height that we're talking about. So anyway, that's my question.
Yeah, the exemption is basically the exemption, as I understand it, from FEMA's 50% rule, which is kicked in by substantial improvements. So you're essentially exempting the substantial improvements from that rule. So that's assuming that the town would want to grant the exemption. Now, the town is aware that if they do grant it, they become somewhat liable if we pick some random number and they approve it.
Yeah, let's kind of end this conversation, gentlemen. This is a conversation we need to have with the building inspector in terms of, we can all speculate on what is not in Devil's, but I don't want to get into speculation. This is the Historical Commission, okay? And whether or not we can or cannot have an exemption is a subject for discussion with the building inspector, which I'll ask Jay to be here at the next meeting so we could have that authoritatively rather than us speculating what we did. And just remember, the Cape Cod Commission, these are opinions. It's not it's not direction, it's opinions. So let's deal with it. So unless somebody has something related specifically, let's move on, and we'll see you December 2nd. Hopefully, as soon as you can get something to us.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, I got it, thank you. All right, Chris?
Yeah,
Is that good?
absolutely.
Don't go away.
No, not.
Yes, someone wishes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the commission for giving me the opportunity to address you, and I'll be brief. I represent the Gould family, which are the other two, only other two buildings that Chris has referred to in the pictures that he's walked you through. First, I'd like to thank Chris. He has been in touch with us and in touch with my client. There's been some back and forth. No resolution has been reached, but we hope to keep that communication going, and we understand the commission is encouraging that. At least that's what I'm hearing from the commission this morning. I'm buoyed by the fact that the commission appears to be willing to explore this whole notion of an exemption. I think it's a positive one. I think this is a case that cries out for an exemption. It does require the cooperation of other regulatory officials and, frankly, other boards that this may go in front of to get behind whatever it is that can get worked out for an exemption with this committee. Key to all of that, of course, is the building commissioner, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to just have you continue to focus as we enter into this stage of considering an exemption and what it might be, also on why we're here, at least according to the presentation at the public hearing. And that was that there's a substantial improvement being proposed. But we heard two things. One, Mr. Cannon testified that his clients did not want to raise the structure. If you've watched the hearing, it's very clear. That was very encouraging to my clients, that there was no intent to raise the structure. What is triggering the need to raise the structure? This structure, as the plans show, is being raised up without any change in the structure whatsoever. It's not like they've got to take off the bottom 2 feet because of the flood damage. We were told that there is no damage. There is no structural damage. This can just be lifted right up. So, query, why can't they just fix the house in its current location? Well, we're told it's mold. Okay. The house, let's assume, is worth, the testimony was, and I'm not sure that's market value, but market value is what the statute and regulations say, $130,000 or $140,000, I can't remember which amount. So you can spend $70,000 on mold without triggering a substantial improvement. So if you did that, you could leave the building right where it is, which is what his client would like to do, according to the testimony, is leave it right there, and fix the mold problem. Now, I've been involved in a number of situations where the substantial improvement issue comes up, and sometimes the substantial improvement issue gets spread out over a period of time and a period of building permits, if a building permit is necessary in order to undertake the mitigation. And there are building commissioners that work in that fashion, that if you phase the work out and pull different building permits for it, then you may even be able to spend more than 50% of the value of what it was at the beginning. So we'd also like the commission to know about that and explore that, because frankly, if they really don't want to raise it up, and it's mold that's the problem, because none of the structure has to be replaced, none of it's been structurally damaged, that was the testimony. What is driving all the expense? Well, what's driving all the expense is the cost of raising it up. But if you never get to that trigger, well, then you don't have all that cost. You don't have the new foundation, the new pilings, the raising it up, the cranes, the catwalks, all the other things that we're talking about here that are incident to and the result of raising it up. So there's a threshold issue here. And I'd ask the commission to add that to what you've decided to do, which is talk about an exemption, which I applaud. And I applaud the applicant for at least listening to that and considering that, because you're right, the applicant has to be on board. But if the applicant truly doesn't want to raise the house up, there's a threshold issue that's causing all of this, and that's the mold. And it would seem to me that maybe there is a way to address that substantial improvement issue at that level if you really don't want to raise it up. So I'd ask the commission to be cognizant of that as we go forward. With respect to an exemption, this is kind of a broader question, and I would hope, the building commissioner has his regulatory authority, but at the same time, this is really a town issue and a public-wide issue. It's important for the entire district because it sends a message as to what's going to happen if others come forward. And it may well be, Chris may be absolutely right, that just raising it a couple of feet or a foot or whatever is enough to take care of what FEMA says has got to be 8 feet. And there is no desire on the part of my clients, I can tell you that, and there are no letters from my clients saying that they're going to raise their structures up, because I know that's where your question was coming from, and there haven't been. And they like the way it is. They like the fact that they're all historic structures and they're all contributing. But raising it up creates all the problems that they identified in the letters that are already in your record. So I would hope, and I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, you're probably already exploring this, that this could be a discussion beyond just the Historic Commission here in town, that, you know, we need to do something. And there are a number of towns on the information that has been passed out by the Cape Cod Commission that have wrestled with this and come to a protocol where exemptions kick in. And it's kind of a group thing. And we would hope that you would look at that as well. Whether it's 4 feet or 3 feet or 2 feet, whatever works here, I realize Chris needs to get his client's building out of the risk and threat of another flood if they're going to put some money in it. But we're hopeful that the exemption process can work. We're appreciative of the applicant's effort so far through Chris, and we hope they continue, and we hope you look at it as well.
Well, thank
And
you.
thank you for allowing us to make those comments.
No, I appreciate that. And interesting enough, you know, this also has triggered something else that this commission has been dealing with, unfortunately, quite a lot in another areas of town, Little Beach area, which is Floodsville, okay? And over the last, maybe 7 or 8 years, we've had at least 10 homes in that area which have come to us, got to go up.
Right.
And, you know, there's something I really never thought of, which was in the Cape Cod Commission. You know, all right, you've got to go up 10 feet, but you don't have to make it look like a 3-story building. And what they indicated there, just put pilings. In other words, you still have a single-story building, okay, on pilings versus skirting it and creating a whole nother living area, a living thing. Well, we say, well, it's not, it's just storage. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
It's
No, I saw that, and I think they offered it as well for people behind could actually see through and see the water. I mean, they
Yes.
had a number of reasons that they.
Yeah. It's interesting.
But we're hopeful that we don't have to get to pilings, that there'll be some sort of exemption that the applicant, with the assistance of their architect, can figure out, and that we can get your committee at that point, and we can get the building commissioner and other boards that this will have to go through at that point as well. So we're here, and my clients are willing to work and willing to be a part of that if we can.
Thank you very much. Okay, we need a motion, Bob, to continue the hearing.
Can I just respond?
Okay, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Well, maybe I said that the clients did not want to lift the house. I think what I said, in fact, was that they weren't looking to, right? That was not on their agenda. That wasn't their bucket list of items that they wanted to lift this house. This was a product of a flood. And logically, that flood will happen again. Happened once. These storms are getting worse. They should lift their house out of harm's way. And that would be good preservation.
It's an opinion. Thank you. Just introduce yourself.
Kyle Gould, 61 Eliphaments. I just wanted to make a few more comments with respect to the structure here. You know, I think one of the most resonating things is something that Chris has said moments ago when he was showing these photos, and it was a passing comment, but he said, these photos are very hard to come by. And I think as we look to the historic nature of this area, I welcome any of you to go downtown and look into any of these stores. There is 100 of these type of photos that sit there and encapsulate what the historic part of the mill pond is. I also think that's important to say that even though that this is a single structure that we're looking at, there are over 12 structures located within that floodplain, of which my family owns 6. And so whatever decision we're choosing to make here to move forward is something in a non-threatening way that will resonate as precedent for what the other structures can do. And I think that for such an area as this, with its quaint nature, we are going to be turning it up into stilts, right? And if we go down this path. And You know, our house is on the corner here. There's 1 million people that come down during the summer and view the shore and look at the houses and take photos and everything. And I think that that's an element that would be greatly lost within the historic district. We also talked about, Mike Ford talked about quickly about stretching out the progress and how you can alleviate FEMA buckets by doing things over time. This property that they're calling a family home or a house is a rental unit, and it hasn't been used for 4 years. So if they cared about it, why aren't they here and using it? It seems like we're trying to protect someone's financial asset, so something that they actually care about. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, guys, we need to move on. We need a motion to
What's the date, Christina?
December 2nd.
I move the Chatham Historical Commission reschedule, continue this matter until December 2nd with the support of the applicant.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any comments? None? Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Janet? Robert Wilson?
Yes.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay. Took a little longer than I thought it was. We got a lot to do, guys. 25044, 89 Barcliff, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. This is a quite an interesting little house, 1730 colonial era home, and it's in a beautiful spot. There is a Form B on the property. It's got quite an interesting history and a lot to be said for it. Now, Chris, why don't you give us a quick introduction? I assume there's no argument relative to this house being historically significant.
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. We can eliminate that quickly.
I was going
Go.
to suggest you just go through that
That's all right.
that part of it. Well, I'm still Chris Cannon, so we can dispense with that part. Representing David and Caroline Cole, who are here with me today. Some of you met them yesterday. So we began, I don't know, about a year ago to look at redoing their kitchen. Their kitchen is pretty old, and they live here now full-time, which I think just happened this year. So we looked at, what we could do to design the kitchen into the existing space, hoping to maybe add a little bit to make a mudroom and hopefully renovate the little porch that's there, the glassed-in porch. And we realized through the process that the structure is just deficient. It's degrading, it's sagging, there's not much to the glassed-in porch. I think, the glass itself may be holding up the roof, which is only 2x4s. And the door that goes into it is about 6'2" high. Ceiling inside is about 80 inches. There's not a lot of logic to working with it. We tried to. We have a nice kitchen design, but it's very limiting inside the building. So we started getting builders out to, sort of price things out for us so we could get a sense of the cost of the project. We had about 4 or 5 different ones. I don't have the exact number. And each of them came through and they said, why are you even trying to keep this? Why aren't you tearing it down? Because part of the thing is that we're also looking to put a basement area beneath it. And, we could support it back and do that at great cost. That's always the case. One of the things was that we realized, well, there's no access to beneath these buildings, not the 1730 building, not the portion that we're requesting to remove and reconstruct. And we're looking to reconstruct it with, maybe a foot higher, but basically the same form and then having a small addition. So what we realized was that if we could get a foundation underneath here, we could then gain access to all the mechanical, potentially be able to get underneath the main 1730 house and get mechanical under there, which is sorely lacking. House is a hodgepodge of heating at this point. I don't even think there's any air conditioning, is there? No. And, we'd like to avoid having mini splits, which, are pretty unsightly. So, in doing the heating work, we'd, love to be able to get underneath everything. So we thought, well, let's run it up the flagpole. It's kind of where we are, and see, if this piece of the building was as important to you as the main piece, which is, the Coles want to keep the house. They love the house. They don't want to make the changes. But they recognize the need for this particular piece to have some better structure and better height. I was explaining to somebody yesterday, I did a house that was sort of similar, and did a kitchen that was 3.5 inches out of square from one end, or out of level from one end to the other. It's a pain in the neck to do that. And in today's world, and that was 35 years ago that I did that, in today's world, everything's done in a cabinet shop. And, they would have to come in and do some custom work on the site in order to make everything level here. It's the same kind of thing. It's just sagging. And so that's where we are. Is it historically significant? Absolutely, the 1730 portion is. I couldn't tell you on this wing. I don't think that the glass portion is. I think that was probably done in the 60s. What I could tell on, as best I could in looking at the chronology viewer this morning, Cape Cod Commission, it doesn't look like any of this portion was on the house in 1938, but it also could have been in shade and just not showing, but it just didn't look like it because the buildings themselves were kind of white in the image. So it could be there, it's just hard to tell.
Right.
But that's as far back as I could go to.
Very good. Thank you very much. As you alluded to, some of us made the site visit and got a chance to meet the Coles, or the next generation of the Coles in the home. And quite honestly, Chris, I think a very thoughtful attempt to expand the house, but still, in my opinion, maintain the integrity of the most historic structure by still updating it. And certainly a problem where it's down so low. That's a problem. Don't have a FEMA issue, but you could have water issues
Thank God, no.
eventually. Anyway, so so why don't we just quickly proceed along the one here. And Bob, why don't you start?
Thanks, Frank. I did not make the site visit yesterday, but I did go out on Sunday, and Mrs. Cole came out to find out what I was doing there, I assume, and gave me some background and discussion about what they were up to and why. And my view of it, looking around, taking the drawings with me, I don't have a problem with it negatively impacting the historic character of the house, and I think it would be, given the size and the proposed height, the height I thought was important, but it doesn't intrude with the, I guess, character-defining features, as the commission calls them. So I'm okay with Chris's presentation and his plans.
Very good. Nance?
I just want to talk about the date a little bit, sorry. But I guess I just want to say, I don't think the porch seems like that's a pretty recent addition. There's an 1894 bird's eye view of Chatham that shows the house, and it definitely shows a front L that looks very like the kitchen addition. So it may well be historic within our terms. And so I just want to say that, it's not a huge area. I'm not going to pretend to understand all the mechanics required, but, it's not a huge, you can lift a relatively small structure to put a foundation under it. I think all of these things sound like they need to be done. I guess I just question, I realize that it's more expensive, and I have a lot of respect for not having to undertake that, but I don't want us just to brush off this addition, because it certainly looks like it's well over 100 years old from what I've looked at. I looked at the same pictures you did. It's really hard to tell if it's there. So because seem to be that person on the commission, I'm just going to say.
No, no,
I do
Nancy.
think that the kitchen area is a historic L that was built before 1894. And so I think we should know that when we're making the decision for it to be torn down and replaced. I think everything you're proposing is tasteful. I would love to see, and I think it does not compromise the historic integrity of the 1730 original house. There's also a picture here of the old grandma who owned it at one point, if you may have not have seen. But, so the stories are there for the house, that it does have some of that integrity that goes longer, including the L. And so my question is that something that did you just decide not to consider it after people, I mean, I know that builders will always say you have to tear it down, like, why would you save this little bit? It's historic.
Yeah, is that a question?
Yeah, yeah.
As I said, this whole process began, until I filed for this, which was, what, maybe 6 weeks ago. We had been trying to keep it. And it was just that the feedback was, consistent throughout. And those guys were, doing what they could to poke through it in ways to understand it, what they would have to do to it. So that was just, as a product of feedback. And otherwise, we always knew it was saggy. We knew that there were going to be challenges. We knew there's added cost, much added cost. When you hold a house back or lift it up, you can't really lift it. You have to hold it back here.
Right,
So
and
it's a
then
little different.
go under.
But it is necessary to put something beneath it in order to really access
Yeah.
all the mechanics.
No, I can hear you on that.
So there's no question the added costs are going to be there, but they're reduced dramatically when you remove something and you start from scratch.
Right, so full demolition, so you're not saving any part of that part of the house at all?
So that portion of it, I would say, no. The rest of the house, absolutely. We're
Yes.
not looking at all to tear it down. It was just that small wing. Again, we always assumed that because there's no floor, it's a brick floor in the glassed-in portion.
Right, no, I think the glassed-in portion is definitely not part of my comments.
Yeah.
I would knock it down tomorrow, no problem.
Yeah, so,
I'm just having a little bit of a problem with the whole wing going away, being fully demolished. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to come yesterday. I really would have
no,
liked
it's okay. This is why we're here, to have this discussion.
All right, yes.
Well, I was there yesterday, and I agree with Bob Lear's assessment, and actually I did go inside, even though that's not our purview. And I can really see from that standpoint why they arrived at the decision that they did to, even though they didn't really want to part with it, that it really needs to be, it's the only way really to deal with it. So I have no problem. It's been in the family for 40 years, and now it's theirs, and living there full-time, and I think they've thought about it long and hard, so I have no problem. It's historic, but it will not significantly alter it will not diminish its importance, I don't think.
Steph?
Yes, I don't think it'll diminish the historic part of it at all, really. I mean, there's a little bit underneath, but it has to be.
All right. Robert?
I agree with my colleagues here. It doesn't seem to be anything significant.
Yeah. Robert?
Yes, thanks. I did visit the house yesterday and appreciate the detailed tour. And it's, the main house is spectacular with a center chimney, and I just wanted to confirm that the chimney will stay,
We're not touching it.
because it was not shown on the drawing.
Yeah. Now, sometimes it's a little more than I
Oh,
want to
yeah,
do
it's
at
not
my
on the
age to get
drawing.
to the
We'll
roof.
have to
so-
correct that.
Yeah, we corrected drawing, please. Anyway, so as to the L, I think, there's so many pluses to this project. The foundation is going to benefit the main house. The updated, modern, functional heating system is possible. There's only 1 foot higher on the new L, and maybe if it can be, as to the historic part of the L, if they can make it look pretty historic, it'd be great. And I think overall, the benefits of doing this project maybe outweighs the necessity of taking away part of it.
Okay. Just comment, Nancy, you know, I actually agree with you, because when I first looked at it, and then looking at his comments and doing the site visit, it was obvious the house, that element is more than 100 years old. It may not show it all, but I guarantee you, once you start demolishing it, you're going to find this 100-year-old timbers and things inside that house, in that addition. And it just blows my mind the way they put it so low. I can't believe that Barcliff was raised that high over time, so I don't know, it just, sometimes streets tend to get higher, but in this, 17 to 1730, I was watching the Revolution, Burns, and, we talk about 1770, this is 1730, guys, okay? This was here before, probably a bunch of Brits lived there, anyway. But,
Well, Frank, if I can just comment, just having watched my own house for 30 years, which is now kind of below the grade.
Yeah.
And you know that I have a house that is considered historic, and you got to weigh in on it. We're now having to go back in and grade around the entire house again 30 years later. So it does happen. It happens quickly. And 1730, my God, it's amazing it's not 2 feet under.
there's a lot of dead leaves around that house.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, but my point I was trying to make, Nancy, is the fact that I looked at it, but then I looked at the design of the additions. They had certain character, but I don't know about character-defining issues, and that's why I really just felt, and also because the proposal, from my point of view, was relatively modest, considering the kind of things we get sometimes. So, anyway,
Are you saying that you don't believe the L is historically significant? Is that kind of where you're
I
recommending we
think,
go?
it's a compromise,
No, I'm not arguing with you.
I know that.
I
I know.
honestly haven't decided how I feel yet
Yeah, no,
about
I
it.
agree. Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Okay. I think we seem to have a strong consensus. Bob, why don't we do the historical significance and get rid of that quickly, and then we'll combine them.
Okay, I move this Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at 89 Barcliff Avenue is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, much more. And the commission also finds that it's associated with one or more historical persons related to the cultural and social history of the town, and possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period, style, and method of construction.
Second.
Okay? Any other comments? Any member of the public wish to speak for or against the application? Seeing none. We'll roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes?
Steph?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert Wilson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We combined both of them? Yes, we did. You looking for the date?
I'm looking for the date of the plans.
The date of, there's August 19th.
Okay, I've got up August 19th on the plans, but it does say preliminary next to it, so just so we're,
Well, we
Clear that
we
that's
can still
the
use
one.
this as the defining plan for us to give to the building department.
okay. Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed. Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated August 19th, 2025 will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any member of the public wish to speak for or against? Okay, seeing none. Roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
I'm going to abstain.
Steph?
Yes.
Robert Stevens?
Yes.
Janet Tennyson?
Yes.
Robert Wilson?
Yes, providing the chimney drawings.
And the chair votes
pay
yes.
for it.
Make sure it's in the minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Pleasure
Right.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Guys, we've got, is Eric here? Yes. Okay. Is Christine coming down? She's here, online. Oh, okay. Eric, before you go, Eric, this is, come forward. This is Eric Dre.
To us.
Go to the podium.
Can you hear me?
Go to the podium. Eric, are you there?
I am, yep.
All
Can
right.
you hear me?
This is Nancy
Yes.
Cole's son.
Oh.
Eric.
I was just, hi, David. I know, I was thinking, his mother was one of my mother's best friends.
Yeah.
So,
It's so great to see you, Eric, and I'm remiss I haven't talked to your mother in a long time, so I hope she's doing okay.
she's doing all right, and I'll definitely tell her that we saw each other today. I just talked to her this morning.
I hope to be in person.
And I know your
sometime
mother would be
soon.
thrilled. I know your mother would be thrilled to know that you're still in that house. That's great.
Yeah, it is indeed. So great to see you, Eric, and look forward to.
Yeah, you too, David.
Thank you. Sorry about that. That's great. It's a small town. Okay,
And I agree, that house sits very, very low, so I understand the value of a foundation there.
yeah. You know, I was looking at the application, and this morning I was looking at the Form B, and I said, my goodness, that's Nancy. You know, anyway, small world. Okay, we're in old business, no new business. And the first item we have is the issue of the recommendation from the preservation consultant in updating the survey plan. I asked Eric, we're a little bit behind, but I wanted to spend a couple of minutes, because we have a couple of new members on the commission, and for the members of the public, to just quickly, Eric in, I don't know, in 2023, you know, whatever it was, he did a quick update of the survey plan and provided recommendations to the commission on how we could proceed. And Eric, I'm going to let you do the talking, but can you give us a quick overview for the members of the commission and also for the public who may be listening in? You know, just what is this? What are these Form Bs? What's this all about? And when did the commission do something about it?
Two of the most vital components of preservation planning are identification and protection. And for historical commissions, identification means conducting an inventory. And that by inventory, that means the Form Bs that you often look at, as well as area forms. And every historical commission throughout the state, you know, is in some state of trying to develop a comprehensive inventory. And I'm happy to say that Chatham, you know, is very well along that path. I got involved back in 2013 and first did 52 Form Bs within the CHBD. But then before proceeding with additional phases of survey work, I recommended that we do what's called a survey plan, where you have the town generate a database of every building over X years old. And in Chatham, we chose 75 because of demo delay. And then fold into that database, and that came out to be about 2,500 buildings. And then folded into that database all the buildings that had been surveyed already, and then conducted a windshield survey, where I went out and drove by every one of those buildings to determine whether there's anything, you know, physically that, you know, compels something to be surveyed or not surveyed, you know, such as lack of visibility or that it's been severely altered. And out of all that work, we generated a series of recommendations back in 2015. And there's a street index for that. And we broke it down into prioritization of high, medium, and low priority, and then some with no priority at all. And since that time, we have completed the inventory for all of the recommended in the high and medium categories. But also another almost 10 years had passed, and so we thought it might be a good idea to revisit the rest of the recommendations and come up with a revised or updated survey plan moving forward. And that's the cover page of, we did it in 2013 and then updated it in 2023 and updated it in 2024. And the core findings from that updated survey plan is that we have 635 Form Bs that I think are done and to a sufficient level of, you know, current standards. We recommended that, or I recommended that there's 100 buildings that have not yet been surveyed that should be. And these include resources within the 2 National Register districts where it's likely that you may be looking at them in your role as, in terms of preservation planning on the protection side. That there are properties in the NR districts, commercial properties that still haven't been surveyed that are over 75 years old in the CHBD, and good examples of colonial revival and post-war traditional houses and mid-century modern houses. So that was one part of the recommendations from the updated survey plan. And then I also, we looked at the survey that had been done in the past, and there are 245 survey forms that were completed between 1978 and 1991. And interestingly, looking at 89 Barcliff, that is an example of one of the ones that was done in 1991. And they're generally well done for their time, but there's just a lot more information that typically would be gathered now if they were to be done or updated today. Back in 91, there was no access to online, vital records, resources through Ancestry.com and other such websites. There was no ability to do title searches. There was less ability to access certain historic maps. And so Form Bs today typically include a lot more information. And so to the extent that you also feel it might be recommended to do, I think it would be of value also to update some, if not all, of those 245, Form Bs that are 35 years or older. But my understanding is that, and so since that time, funds have now been generated to do another round of about 33 Form Bs, and the decision of which buildings to do, will be decided in conjunction with you all. And my understanding, at least working with staff and Frank so far, is that, and understandably, is that they would like to prioritize the buildings that have not been surveyed at all yet. So, start to do those out of that list of 100 that I recommended to be done. And so if you all agree that that should be our priority moving forward, then, we can decide how to decide which of those 100, which 33 of those should be done next.
All right. If you look at this, page 3 of the, thank you. All right. If you look at page 3 of the form, and it's on the screen right now, inventory in Chatham to date, I think, this really says a lot about the Chatham Historical Commission and the debt, in my view, that we owe the original commission members and how it was created. We're about demolition delay, we're about, enforcing the National Register District and all that kind of stuff. But essential to any historic preservation efforts is the documentation, to know what you have. And I think very early on, the Historical Commission, back in the 70s when it was created, acknowledged that it was essential that we knew it was an old town, we knew that it was historic, but we didn't know the real story. And the Form Bs, allowed us to document. Nancy can attest, because she and I are we used to do these ourselves. There was no Eric Dre. Okay, the commission members, when you got appointed to the commission, you were assigned a street and you had to go do the Form Bs. Good luck on that one, okay? It became very apparent very soon, as a lowly electrical engineer, I'm not an historian, and then the concept of hiring professionals over the years, and I think Eric has done good duty for us in the last 10 or 15 years, and the completion. And I think it's important. I know when I attend various meetings of other historical commissions in other towns on the Cape, we're head over heels on a lot of towns. I mean, this is not Concord and Lexington, in terms of a deep history of the thing, but we do have a history that is well documented. And I think it bodes us well when an application, what is this house? I mean, this beautiful house we just heard, 1730. I mean, that is amazing, and the house is still there, and it's still standing. Anyway, now I'm pontificating, I apologize. But I thought it was important that we, and there's a couple of new members to the commission, 3 new members relatively, who get an understanding of the depth of the history of this and what we have to do. And quite honestly, it ain't easy getting money to do more, and we will, and we're at that point. And I do appreciate Eric's guidance on this particular matter. Does anybody have any other questions, or else I can sum up a bit? Yes, Robert?
Yeah, I just had an observation that I did get a chance, someone provided, was it you, Nancy, the list, the detailed list of, maybe, yeah.
Oh, maybe I provided you with
Yeah, but I went down the list and I looked at houses that I know about, and I'm, like you, an engineer, and I don't have any claim to be a historic expert or anything. But I do have my impressions, and I will say some of the buildings that were ranked L, in my view, they should take a second look. So anyway, but I won't say exactly which ones. So certain people I know that live there might not want to be historic because it might limit things. So anyway, I'm
Just a clarification.
Yeah.
Just a clarification, I guess that actually was part of the goal of updating these survey plan in 2023.
Great.
Is looking at all those that were designated as L and reevaluating whether they should in fact be surveyed. So some of those buildings have now definitely been added to the list of yes.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes, Nancy, go ahead.
Eric, are you going to update the actual street listings so that if we wanted to see the change in designation from no to L or L to high, or like, that's what I'm finding, like, every time I want to look and say, has this, like, sometimes I've looked for a form on the Macris database, it says it's done on my 2015 list. Macris doesn't have a PDF, and I'm like, oh, so if we had an updated list, I'd know if that had been noticed and changed in those 10 years. Anyways.
Yeah, I guess unfortunately, I provided a comprehensive updated list in 2023 and 2024, so I guess it didn't get circulated to all of you, but I have done exactly that, but I can resend it, and the list I have now documents everything that has been surveyed and the date that the survey was done, and those that I recommend for survey now, and one change we made is the ones that I don't recommend for survey now, I don't have in that column a no, because I think that got interpreted. I think things, opinions and times change, and so rather than saying something should not be surveyed, I just don't issue a recommendation on the rest of the properties. But the street index that I have generated now for you will have exactly what you're looking for.
Great, so it's not just the ones you've updated, but it's the full street listing, like the
Exactly.
2000, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I would love, maybe we could share that again. One more question, if you don't mind.
Sure, go.
If there's something that is noticed that is incorrect, or there's a question about an existing Form B, or why isn't there a form, like when Macris, we say there's a form, Macris doesn't have it, how do we resolve those? Is that something we should be working with you? Is there a way to correct a Form B that's been uploaded? I'll talk to you offline a little bit more about it as you're working on the project, maybe about things I'm finding in specifically, but I guess what I'm wondering is, in brief, what is the process for changing or editing a Form B that has already been gone to Macris?
I mean, if it's a Form B that dates to the 1970s up to 91, the process, I think sometimes should be doing an entirely new Form B.
I'm generally talking about more recent ones, I think.
If it's more recent ones and there's sort of corrections or additional information has been discovered, there's a form called the continuation sheet.
Okay.
And you would include that information either under the architectural description or historical narrative, heading, and then that would be added onto the scanned in.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can I suggest, have a conversation with Eric?
Yeah,
and
is that
maybe
part
come
of it? I
back-
guess I'm trying to find out, is that part of his
And then come
scope, or
back
is
to
that
the
something we
commission,
do?
come out to us with a recommendation, and we'll work with Christina relative to how we maybe want to get something
That
else
sounds good.
modify the contract, this is an ongoing thing. And
Yeah,
that was
I
kind of
think
the
yeah.
purpose for today. Introduce the subject and say, hey, guys, we're not done, and there's a lot more to do. But it's like a funding thing,
Yeah, I think maybe some of the forms that were done, like in South Chatham during when they were trying to get a whole bunch done.
Yeah.
I have some questions about them. Maybe.
I
you
know,
didn't do them.
I didn't do them, and I agree with you completely.
Okay, well, we can have a conversation then. That would be great.
Eric, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Okay?
All right, thank you, guys.
Eric, thank you. We'll be in touch. Everything's copacetic contract-wise? He's off and running?
We haven't given him marching orders, but yes.
Okay, great. All right.
So is me having a conversation with him okay? I just don't want to start using his time.
Unfortunately,
I don't want to start using his time if
I'm
he's.
sorry?
Just let me know when I can contact him because I don't want to start using his time if he's not on contract.
Yes, I can have that conversation.
you can give him a call. He's fine.
Okay.
He's been with us a while. All right, guys, I thought this was going to be a short meeting, but unfortunately not. We have one other thing which we really need to address, because we've been talking about it for years, and I'm getting tired of talking about it, and that is the next item, the demolition by neglect. Christine O'Grady is, I think, online. Hi, Christine. I guess Steph and I have been worrying about this for a long time, and unfortunately, it's like the military, hurry up and wait. And so, during COVID, we got kind of turned off and things didn't happen. And we did a lot of research, Steph did a lot of research up front. And we decided, as we got priorities knocked around a bit, to look for some help from staff-wise. And then Christine came on board, and I asked Katie Donovan to, assign her this task. And the task, I guess the way it's been interpreted at this particular point, is a staff report for a summary of what's happened and what's not happened. So you all have a copy of it, and hopefully you've read it. And, my only comment up front, Christine, it's a good summary of where we are, of where everybody else is, okay? And like you say, in a couple of places, you're still awaiting response about the success or not success. But, and then you provide some, I guess I would call it suggestions, and what we can or can do. But, in my mind, at least, maybe I'm beating a dead horse here. I don't believe that there is a question of whether we do or do not need this. And as I said from the beginning, this is a tough one. It's not an easy one. I've done it in my other life. And how do we proceed? So I guess, without, completely short-circuiting it, is what's your sense and summary of where we are and what, in your opinion, we should or should not, how we should proceed? And that's really the question. At this particular juncture, I'm kind of looking for a little help, looking for the stones as we step across the water. How could we proceed? Because I think there is consensus within the commission, and I think clearly what just happened here with the Monomoy Theater is a good example of demolition by neglect, which we know it's not being demolished and hopefully will never be. But, we think we want to do something, and you're giving us a lot of tasks here, what we can or cannot do. But what would be, in your opinion, a way to proceed with this, from a priority perspective?
Well, let me start by saying I am not a preservation planner by trade. I have worked with preservation planners in the past, and I've worked with communities that focus on preservation planning. I basically, like you said, I took your previous things with your last planner that you worked on and kind of went through them and looked at it again. And then I also happened to look at what the Cape Cod Commission is doing now. So they've kind of changed they've kind of changed their philosophy a little bit on it. And I see that in some places, they have stayed away from the residential piece of it. I get the impression that that's not what this group is looking to do. I don't think that I have the knowledge or the wherewithal to kind of tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing at this point. I'm just trying to give you some options that you can proceed. And then if you tell
and I
us how
appreciate
you
that.
want to proceed as a group, but what I am also pointing out is that, there are some obstacles with what you want to do. I mean, and the biggest one is, and if you decide to do it for residential, is if a homeowner says that they do not have the money to do it, they do not have the means to do it, do you have an actual funding source to back that up or not? And, if you don't, then maybe that's not, really a realistic option for you to proceed with going about it. Maybe you should start with the commercial, or maybe you should, focus on certain groups or certain areas of town, because you can't save every structure at the end of the day, right? You can't save every structure. You can't, your interpretation of what, neglect might be different from what the homeowner, the property owners is, they might not see it the same as you.
Yes.
So unless it's clearly spelled out, and you do have a way to help them get over it if they do have a financial problem, then that gives you a little bit more teeth. But you can't, I don't think you can just arbitrarily, you have to have something clearly defined, what you consider neglect. So I guess that's what some of the things that you should be considering if you want to really pursue this, what are the criteria because you have to spell out the criteria clearly to everybody as a starting point. What do you consider neglect as a board? What do you consider to be, a safety concern? Are you looking at those things? Are you looking strictly at the outside of the, the whole entire property? Are you looking at the structure? You have to spell it out for what you expect of people and what, there has to be a clearly defined set of guidelines for them to follow or for you to point to and say this. And then you also have to have the backing of the select board. You have to have them saying to you, yes, we will put some financial monies or, give you some money to do this so that you can help somebody who comes forward and says that there is a financial thing, or else you have to have the option to do waivers, and realistically, you have to be considering whether or not you're going to be granting more waivers than not. And does it become, a burden on your commission? Is it better to focus on certain areas? Is it better to get your inventory back up to date first and get that in line? Is it better to concentrate on, it seems like the Cape Cod Commission is leaning more towards reuse of certain properties. So maybe there is some type of a contingency fund when something gets to a level, where somebody maybe can't afford it. Maybe you suggest that that they go into some other thing and that you look at it for a commercial piece instead. There's a lot of different things. I guess I need more direction from you.
Okay.
I can't spell it out for
All right,
you.
I think you made it clear and from your perspective. And I guess, well, we did make it clear enough relative to what we want from your office, from my perspective. The terms of documentation, I think as you heard in the previous speaker, Eric Dre, there's no question Chatham has done an excellent job in documenting what we consider historic structures in the town. And that's what we're trying to protect. Protect those structures which are historically significant from demolition by neglect. Drawing a fine line between a commercial property and a residential property, yes, okay, that's an issue. And those are decisions that have to be made. I wasn't looking up front, to make all the decisions. I was looking for a pathway. How do we proceed? And I think, we've taken it the first step in that there are a number of communities that do have a demolition delay, and they are being enforced minimally, but they are being enforced, and it's on the books. And some more towns are considering it as we the pressure on homes and properties is increasing. So I guess maybe the way for us to proceed on this, yeah, okay, is, they hate subcommittees, but maybe Steph and I will get together and outline something on paper to give you some guidance on how we could or could not proceed. Yes, Steph? I'm
One of
sorry.
the things I found very interesting, I looked at the material that I'd collected 5 years ago compared to the stuff that you had, material that you had provided us, and it seems to me that, especially Orleans, they're going backwards. They're going away from.
Yes, yeah,
So I don't know if we
yeah,
should
well,
be
we
doing-
have to look into that. Yeah, Robert, yes.
Yeah, I just had the basic question. I assume the basic problem is that there are some nice buildings out there that kind of are disintegrating before our eyes, and we want to intervene in some way, in a productive way. So right now, there's no intervention going on, and so it would be good to, would a first step be to identify the top 10, top 5 historic buildings that seem to be being neglected?
Well, you see,
Has that
I
already
guess.
been done? Maybe it's already been done.
Yeah, I think this came about when this commission had at least 2 or 3 structures which were very historic, which were demolished. One was 1715 or something on Bridge Street. You know, the house was just completely neglected, and guess what? They waited long enough, and boom, you know, it came down. And we had a couple of them. This is not a widespread problem.
Yeah.
This is not, you know, a problem where like there's 50% of the houses in Chatham are being neglected, okay? It's very specific, and then I agree with you. What I was looking for, and I think what I need to do is be more definitive with Christina in terms of some of the criteria that, you know, could or could not proceed, and we'll do that. And again, this was just the purpose. We've been trying to get together, and it's been difficult, you know, ships passing in the night, to find time to talk about this. Yes, Janet?
No, I agree with what Bob Wilson is saying, but I think what Christine is saying is that we need, or someone, the town or us, needs to define what neglect is. I mean, we know it when we see it, but it hasn't been written down.
Yes. And that's
it.
Janet, you're absolutely right, and that's a shame on me, okay? I was looking for a planner to tell me that, okay, and it didn't happen.
She can't do that.
Yeah, well, she can do it, she just has to be told how to do it, in my opinion. Yes, Nancy? Okay,
Sorry. Never mind.
all right.
No, I was just going to say that I do think it's important that the experience does seem to be that demolition by neglect is an issue, but when you try to
It's a tough
address
one.
it, it is tough to do this from a policy.
Absolutely.
And that places that have tried it are backpedaling a bit from it. So we should take that, I mean, as learning, and I also think that we should, the idea of, do you do it in your historic districts, like, you know, that maybe starting it in a limited way, but certainly defining what we mean.
Sure, we could.
It's important.
You know, we didn't approach this, I didn't want to provide, this is what I want to do. I kind of would, give me some sense of what's going on out there. You know, what's the world, what's happening in the world? Give me a sense. And I can give you a lot of towns where it's very successful. Not necessarily in Massachusetts, but there are a lot of other places where it's working quite well. And anyway, Christina,
So I think maybe what you should do is you should start by, if there is a community that you know, whether it be in Massachusetts or not, is you get a copy of their bylaw, and then you work from that, and you
Yes.
clearly define what the criteria are, what you consider neglect, because maybe what you consider neglectful is different from what I would see,
Right.
or somebody like me, right? So that you have to clearly put that out there, that criteria. When the planning board looks at, something for site plan review, they always go back to their criteria. So, and that's how we go through each application. So if you really want to have a demolition by neglect bylaw, and you want to bring something forward to town meeting, you need to start with something. So if there's a good example, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. We just fit that, and I can give you the ones that I've seen here, but if you know of another one, I can point you in the direction of that. And then you could start to mark it up as a group And then you could put in the pieces that you see, because again, you're all looking at it and you're all saying it's neglected, but what is it? And then you also have to have a plan of action. Like, I mean, if somebody comes forward and says they don't have the money to fix whatever it is, whatever it
There's
is, you can't, I mean,
There's a myriad of, there's
what
a
is the
myriad of
old
issues
saying?
that
You
have to
can't
be
get blood
addressed.
from a stone. So you
Okay.
need to have a plan in action to help them to get to that point.
Yeah,
And
that's
in
just
some
one,
cases, that
that's
might not
one
be the
thing.
case.
That's just one issue, Christina. You gave a long laundry list of things that, yeah, we should consider it, and I agree with you. And we can do that if that's how we want to proceed. In the meantime, from my perspective, I would just ask you, where you are still awaiting, if you could pulse those communities for me and find out if
Yep.
there is any input, and then we'll get back together at some particular point, and I'll try to get together with Steph and review some of the stuff that we already did years ago and kind of dot the I, cross the T, and come back to the commission with some kind of an outline on how we proceed. Guys, this thing has been sitting around for years, and, we just wanted to, it's one more thing on my bucket list here before I leave, and I just wanted at least to get it addressed. Christina, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Guys, I need to move quickly here if we may. There's a couple things, just quick announcements, if you may. Monomoy Theater, you saw what happened. They were denied the permission to demolish the theater. They're 99% sure they're going to be appealing it to the Board of Selectmen. We'll see where that happens. But, I've been involved with the Monomoy Theater for a good 15 years, one way or the other. And I still have in the back of my mind, we're going to find a way to save that structure, one way or the other. This is Chatham. We've done it in the past, and we'll find a way. I'm hope. Hope springs eternal. And nothing else to add on that other than we are where we are. I'm going to pass by the issue of rules and regs, Bob. We'll get that at the next meeting if we could. And this is very simply for us to make a decision how we want to modify the rules and regulations and provide a suggestion back to town, the community development on this is how we think we want to operate. If we want to delegate the issue of historical significance. We all know the issue. We get an application, it's obvious this thing is not historically significant. Why are we here? Why are we spending time and money to do this? And is there a way we could legitimately, legally short-circuit that process by allowing staff, this young lady to my left, right, to be involved in that? Okay. Just other quick things I wanted to comment on the Nickerson Family Association and the archaeological dig. There was a meeting I had with the Nickerson Family Association and the Cape Cod Foundation. It was a good meeting. It was a coordination meeting with Holly Herbster of PAL, the archaeologist, who now is preparing the actual application. She continues to be very, very hopeful that based upon the comments we received from Mass Historic relative to the determination of eligibility, we're going to get there. It's not if we are going to be designated, it's when. But it's going to take a good 2 years. Those of us who have been around with the Old Village and with the South Chatham, it takes time for it to happen. But I think we have a good chance for that thing to go forward. That's the only other thing I have from my perspective. Sorry it got so long-winded. Oh, sorry. We had a meeting, Christina, myself, and Janet, the Preservation Awards Committee. It was a good meeting. We now have 2 representatives from the HBDC, plus an at-large member, Tom Gilmore, who's on the ZBA. Steve Gilmore?
Steve Berdor.
Okay, the other fellow, right, okay. He used to be on the HBDC, right. So, we are moving ahead. We're thinking about possibly moving the Preservation Award ceremony to June rather than May, but we got to talk about that. And the other thing, quite honestly, is we potentially have a good 5, maybe 10 applications. We'll see.
Just wanted to tell you that Kevin has resigned as of March, so he'll be changing the committee.
Yes. Yeah, it seems like yesterday I was trying to help Kevin find a job, and now he's leaving. So, so if anybody's interested in becoming the executive director of the Historical Society, there's an open position, yeah, anyway. You got spare time. Anyway, yeah, that's, we're going to miss him. He's been a good guy. That's pretty much it, guys. You did have in your packet a copy of the 2026 calendar.
Last time.
Yeah, take a look at it, see if there are any areas that you're not going to be around, so we should know up front. We still have at least one member of the commission alternate position open. Please keep your noses out there if we can find somebody. And of course, Sandy has been on, off, she's not sure she wants to continue. So we might have a second position open on the commission, and it would be good. Thank you very much, unless there's something else. Motion?
Clerk?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Rob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Robert Stevens?
Yes.
Janet Tennyson?
Yes.
Robert Wilson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.